is a transformed version, setting in a more relatable context with elements that should resonate with a Western audience, while ensuring the narrative feels grounded in reality. Hey everyone, I wouldn't usually share stuff like this on a forum, but what I've been through recently felt so unreal, yet it's something that happened in real life, and it's been eating at me. So, here it goes. Several years ago, I started having this nightmare. Not your average one, but the kind that sticks with you, making you question reality. It happened on a moonless night. In my dream, I found myself standing in front of an old, yet somewhat majestic 3-story mansion nestled in an overgrown field, resembling a scene right out of a horror movie. But the creepy part, there was only one window lit on the entire property. Inside, there was this massive dining room with a long table set for dinner, illuminated by dim candlelight. At the head of the table sat a woman, her elegance magnified by the candle's glow. Her red dress casting mysterious shadows, she gestured for me to join her for dinner with a warm yet eerie smile. Next thing I knew, she was pulling out a gun from a drawer, and with that same disturbing smile, aimed it right at my forehead. The clock struck midnight, and as the last chime echoed, she fired. I woke up drenched in sweat, my heart racing. It was just a dream, yet it felt ominously significant. This nightmare repeated over the years, always the same, always ending with my death and a woman's scream following my supposed demise. Fast forward, I became a psychologist driven by a desire to understand the human mind, perhaps even to decipher my nightmare. My studies and career did nothing to stop the dream, which only became more frequent and intense. Desperate, I eventually sought help from a renowned psychologist, Dr. James Finley, known for his unconventional methods. He listened intently to my story and proposed a bizarre experiment, claiming it could end my nightmares. Skeptical yet desperate, I agreed. Over a week, we met daily, delving deeper into my psyche, but nothing seemed to help until the last day. Finley introduced me to a woman claiming she held the key to resolving my nightmares. This woman, Sarah, bore an uncanny resemblance to the haunting figure in my dreams. According to Finley, Sarah had been plagued by a similar nightmare, where she was the one pulling the trigger. The connection sounded absurd, yet there we were. Finley believed confronting our shared phobia could shatter its hold over us. So we spent days together talking, sharing our fears and experiences, gradually becoming friends through our shared ordeal. It was therapeutic in a strange way. On the 10th day, Finley had us meet in a remote, eerily familiar mansion that mirrored the one from my nightmares. The setting was identical, down to the chillingly detailed dining room where our final confrontation would unfold. It felt like stepping into my own grave. The anticipation of reliving my death by gunshot was overwhelming. But as midnight approached, and Sarah and I sat at the table, a different scene unfolded. Instead of gunfire, there were apologies, laughter, and an inexplicable sense of relief. The gun Sarah pulled out was a lighter, a crude joke to break the tension. Finley's experiment was a psychologically intense role play, designed to confront and extinguish our fears head-on by recreating the scenario in a controlled environment, by facing our darkest fears together. We were supposed to find closure and end the cycle of nightmares. And it worked. The nightmares stopped for both of us. It's been months since I've had that dreadful dream, and I've never felt more liberated. The mind works in mysterious ways, and sometimes facing your fears, as bizarre as they might seem, is the only way to free yourself from them. That's my story, folks. I guess the moral is, don't underestimate the power of confronting your fears, no matter how outlandish they may seem. And sometimes the most unorthodox methods bring the most profound healing. Last night, something happened that's kept me awake, turning it over in my mind, and I just have to share it. It feels like one of those stories you hear about, but never really believe until something happens to you. Here's what went down. I got this weird text yesterday saying, "Hello, your purchase of the gourmet group discount package has been successfully paid for. The redemption code is please redeem it by August 31. The thing is, I hadn't bought anything online. At first I thought maybe someone mistyped their phone number when they ordered, but hey, I've had my fair share of bad luck, and this seemed like a rare stroke of good fortune. So I decided to check out this place named the Gourmet Spot that I found out about through a quick online search. It had just opened in the downtown Millicent building. Oddly enough, that building had been vacated overnight by some international tech firm that went bust, leaving nothing but trash behind. Despite its prime location, it stood empty for the longest time, which was a hot topic for some idle office chit-chat, but nothing more. I arrived there after work, taking the subway downtown. The subway ride was uneventful, but my anticipation grew as I approached the Millicent building. The neighborhood was bustling, but that building always felt a bit out of place with its history of sudden vacancy and eerie silence among the lively streets. The interior of the building looked decent, although the elevator made unsettling noises that added a layer of dread to this adventure. I wondered why nobody ever bothered to fix it. The moment I stepped out on the 12th floor, I was greeted by an opulent-looking restaurant entrance. Two charming hostesses welcomed me with bright smiles, adding to the surreal nature of this experience. I approached the cashier to use my unexpected voucher, feeling out of place in such an upscale environment. But the manager, a woman in her prime, did not rush to verify the code. Instead, she led me to a seat and offered a drink while she went to check the coupon. As I waited, feeling a bit more relaxed, I couldn't help but appreciate the ambience and attractive staff. However, my comfort was short-lived. When the manager returned, she mentioned I had ordered a special meal that required privacy, leading me to a private room. The setup inside was bizarre, with only a single large table and excessively large cutlery. There was some kind of fire pit in the middle of the table, hinting at an unusual culinary experience ahead. I couldn't shake off an uneasy feeling, wondering if I had stumbled into some kind of scam or worse, a setup for something sinister. Not long after, the manager came in with a chef pushing a cart, locking the door behind her. My heart sank. She insinuated that we were about to partake in something secretive and possibly illicit. As she began to undress, suggesting some twisted show was about to start, panic set in. I thought to myself, this can't be happening. This has to be a nightmare. But then, reality crashed back. The manager abruptly stopped, looking confused, and then laughed, admitting they were playing a prank on me. The chef chimed in, apologizing for the scare and explaining that a mix-up with the text messages had brought me here. They confessed it was all a bizarre attempt at viral marketing for their new escape room-themed restaurant experience, mixing fine dining with adrenaline-pumping scenarios. I was too shocked to be angry, and in the end, they offered me a meal on the house as an apology. The food was excellent, thankfully nothing out of the ordinary. I left feeling a mix of relief, amusement, and disbelief at the length some places will go for a gimmick. So there's my tale. Sounds crazy, right? You just never know what to expect when you get a random text. Has anyone else stumbled into a situation like this? All right, let's adapt this story to a Western setting and make it sound like a real experience that someone from there might share. Here's something I never thought I'd find myself sharing on a forum like this, but after tossing and turning over the past few nights, I figured it might help to write it out. Maybe someone here has had a similar experience, or maybe I just need to get it off my chest. Last spring, my friends Casey, Yara, and I decided to take a trip to the Mountain Pine Resort, right at the edge of the picturesque Rocky Mountains. The resort was once a hotspot for tourists because of its proximity to some untouched mountainous areas, perfect for those who love hiking and the wilderness. However, over time, as maintenance became an issue, its popularity waned. Only hardcore hikers made it their base now and then, mostly for its access to some uncharted territories. Upon arrival, we were somewhat disappointed. The cabin we got, number 13, was showing its age. Dust seemed to dance in the stale air, and the sofa's cover felt like it could disintegrate at a touch. The place had a decorative fireplace that wasn't meant for actual use. A small kitchen that barely fit one person at a time, and 2 bedrooms that looked like they hadn't seen visitors in months. Casey threw her backpack on the sofa, declaring she would sleep there for the night. The 4 of us, including myself, had been close since freshman year, thanks to our shared passion for hiking. And with graduation looming, we wanted one last adventure together before life sent us on different paths. Our plan was to hike up to a place known among the locals as Halfway Spring, a natural spring that managed to flow regardless of the weather. Getting there was risky as it wasn't on the official trails, but last year we accidentally stumbled upon it after getting lost. Finding the spring felt like a miracle, and in a way, it saved our lives by providing us the water we desperately needed. So, in a bid to relive those reckless college days, we aimed to find it again. However, the day before we were set to hike, Casey fell ill. She was hit with a sudden wave of cramps. Her menstrual cycle had decided to surprise her a week early. Knowing she couldn't make the journey, she insisted we go without her. And fast forward, and there we were, hiking towards Halfway Spring under the sparse canopy of the Rockies. But Casey and Yara kept bickering about some urban legend they'd heard. Something about hikers playing a twisted game of tag to survive the cold in an abandoned cabin during a blizzard. I tried to keep the mood light, but Casey seemed genuinely spooked, urging us to turn back before the sun set. Finding Halfway Spring again was surreal. We each took a sip from its waters, trying to recapture a feeling of adventure from the year before. Yara even filled a bottle to bring back some for Casey. But as we sat there, something strange happened. I started feeling incredibly drowsy, and before I knew it, I blacked out. When I came to, it was already getting dark, and we were behind schedule. Rushing back, the sun had long set by the time we reached the resort. Casey was not in our cabin, sparking a small panic until we heard her shout not to enter, insisting that one of us had been followed by some malevolent spirit since our hike. Her claim was met with confusion and fear. And here's where it gets truly bizarre. She claimed she had received a distress call from us, saying we were lost and couldn't find Halfway Spring, contradicting the fact we were standing right there in front of the cabin. We tried to reason with her, but then Yara got a call from Casey asking where we were and mentioning something about fireworks at the resort's main lodge. A clear indication she wasn't the one inside our cabin. The dread that settled over us was indescribable. Whose voice were we hearing from inside? And if the real Casey was out watching fireworks, who or what had locked us out of our cabin? I'll spare you the details of what happened next, but let's just say our night turned into a desperate struggle to understand reality. Words like malevolent spirit turned from something out of a campfire story to a tangible fear. As the sun rose the next day, with none of us having slept a wink, we learned the truth. A local ranger found us, explaining that a couple of years ago, 3 hikers went missing in the area. 2 were found dead from apparent exposure, but the 3rd was never recovered. Their last known itinerary was similar to ours, hiking towards Halfway Spring. I still don't have all the answers. There were moments that night when reality seemed to bend in ways I couldn't comprehend. Maybe it was the exhaustion, maybe something in the water at Halfway Spring, or perhaps the mountains have ways of reminding us of those who walked their paths before. Though we left the Rocky Mountains behind, part of me stayed, lingering over questions without answers and the eerie feeling of being watched. They say the wilderness changes you, but they rarely mention how sometimes it reveals truths we're not ready to face. As I was scrolling through my phone one dusk, I received an odd text message. "Meet me at Cheerful Bites Diner. I'll be waiting." Alex Reed. I had no idea who Alex Reed was and assumed it was a wrong number. I quickly texted back, "Think you've got the wrong number. Please double check." About half an hour later, my phone lit up again with a message. "My apologies, stranger, and thank you." That was that, or so I thought. It's easy to forget how easy it is to cross paths accidentally in a crowded city. To me, it was just a funny mix-up, a brief encounter with someone named Alex Reed, nothing more. I work as a middle manager in a company, keeping me busy most of the time. Half a year rushed by in what felt like a blink. One evening, while driving down the street, I noticed a diner named Cheerful Bites, the very name I remembered from that peculiar text message months back. On a whim, I decided to stop and have dinner there. The place was quaint, giving off a homely vibe. I ordered some aperitifs and pasta, taking my time to enjoy the meal and the atmosphere. Right then, my phone buzzed with another message. "Waiting at Cheerful Bites for you. Be there soon. Alex Reed." Was this some kind of mistake again? A strange unease crept over me as I realized I was the only customer in the diner. Hastily, I left money on the table and headed for the door, only to be stopped by a disheveled man rushing in. He apologized for being late due to traffic and assumed I was who he was meeting. I stared, baffled, and asked, "Are you Alex Reed?" "Yes. And you are? You seem familiar yet different," he replied, confusion and a hint of fear creeping into his voice. "The eyes," I uttered. "You said my eyes." Suddenly, the pieces fell into place. "About half a year ago, you texted me by mistake," I explained. The realization dawned on him. He laughed, a bit unnerved. "That's a crazy coincidence. My girlfriend, she shares your name. Even her phone number is just one digit off from yours." The situation was bizarre, yet intriguing. "Can I meet her?" I asked, my curiosity piqued. After a moment of hesitation, he agreed. "Sure, I'll set it up." The week that followed was filled with anticipation and a strange sense of dread. There was someone out there, a girl, who not only shared my name and a similar phone number, but supposedly looked almost identical to me, save for the eyes. My heart raced uncontrollably the day of the meeting. Hours before I was meant to leave work, a message popped up on my phone. "Hey, I met this girl who looks just like you. Thought it was you at first. She's keen to meet you tonight at Cheerful Bites. Don't miss it." Adapting the tale required eliminating culturally specific references and supernatural elements to make it plausible and relatable for a Western audience. The story now unfolds in a setting familiar to them, with the eerie coincidence and mistaken identity offering enough suspense without the need for implausible elements. The focus shifted to the mystery and anxiety stemming from encountering someone who seems to be your doppelganger, a universally intriguing and slightly unnerving concept.